Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. Today's episode is presented by Golf Dojo, your space, your time, your game. Bring your game to Golf Dojo, Western New York's best indoor golf experience. Visit mygolfdojo.com. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you, as always, to everyone out there for watching, for listening, for following, for subscribing. I do appreciate y'all very, very much. This is our weekly Podbag episode. This is the episode where you, the consumer of Talking Buffalo, control the narrative, your questions, your comments, your takes. I'm going to take some of these submissions and answer them today. Primarily Buffalo Bills stuff, of course. It's training camp time now. It's go time for the Bills. A couple Sabres things, though, and actually a pot shot or two at me that I'm actually going to highlight today. Have a little bit of fun with this. I got a couple training camp nuggets that I want to get to before that. Actually, before I get to any of that, most of you hopefully are hearing this sometime relatively early on Wednesday, whether you're watching it or whether you're listening to it. If you are, and if you are in the Western New York area, especially the South Towns, Lackawanna, Orchard Park area, and you can make it out to Sunny Reds, do that Wednesday night, tonight, whenever you're hearing this. I am going to be at Sunny Reds, a live episode of Talking Buffalo, and I am going to be joined by a very, very special guest. My man, Joe Marino from Locked On Bills is going to be with me live from Sunny Reds. I am very much looking forward to this conversation. And in all seriousness, I get it. Every time I have a guest on, I'm going to hype them up. That's what I do. And for good reason. I enjoy all the guests that I have on this show, but a little more pep in my step when it comes to Joe Marino, because he is absolutely one of the best. He is arguably, and you won't get an argument from me, the best Bills content creator in the game today. Joe is a huge grinder, which he has to be, by the way. A difference between Joe Marino and a lot of the other very talented content creators, hopefully including myself. Joe does this for a living. Like, this is his living. Locked On Bills, the content that he produces, that he creates, is not a hobby. This is his livelihood, and he's so good at it. Again, he's a grinder, incredibly knowledgeable, a great voice, excellent at communicating. I think he does a great job of talking to, whether it's a hardcore Bills fan or just a casual fan. He could speak to you through his show and use his knowledge, but still make what he's saying consumable and understandable for even the average Bills fan to be able to handle and all that. And he's just a really, really cool dude, man. Joe lives in North Carolina, so he doesn't get out to Buffalo much. But he does come for training camp. Last year, I did a show with him live from Imperial Pizza. This year, we're going to switch it up. Sunny Reds. So if you happen to be in the area, stop up. We'll be there by, like, say, 6:30-ish. The show is going to be at 8 p.m., which, by the way, if you can't make it, tune in live on YouTube, Twitter, or my Facebook. So we'll be streaming the recording of that live at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And one last thing, too. Sunny Reds, elite wings. And I mean elite wings. They are quite literally in my Mount Rushmore of wings. So if that's not enough to entice you, how about this, folks? Wednesday is actually wing night at Sunny Reds. Really cheap wings. So stop out, have some wings, come shoot the shit with Joe and I. It'll be a really good time. That is going to be Wednesday night, tonight, probably. To most of you. All right, so before we jump into this pod bag, couple of actual Buffalo Bills news items that I want to get to. And let me say this too. I am recording this very, very late, actually, on Tuesday night. Typically, I like to try to get this recording in Tuesday afternoon before I run into a bunch of things that need to get done. But shit happened all day, so I am recording this late at night, which is pretty good. Well, actually, it's not really good because there's still no update on Cole Bishop, which is what I'm about to get to. Two pieces of Bills news that I think are pretty significant that went down on Tuesday. Number one, the Bills signed a safety, not who some people might have thought if they were going to go the veteran route. A lot of Micah Hyde talk out there, a lot of wishing for Justin Simmons, which, by the way, both of those will be discussed in this pod bag coming up. But no, the Bills signed 36-year-old veteran safety Kareem Jackson, played with Denver. Pretty consistent player. He's been pretty reliable throughout his career. The one issue with Kareem Jackson, and it's a very, very big issue, is dude's a dirty player. Let's just call it what it is. If Kareem Jackson signed with the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots, you'd be saying he's a filthy-ass player straight up. That's what he is. At least that's what he's been recently. He was suspended for 4 games last year. 4 games. That's a big suspension for multiple incidents of repeated headhunting. I saw 2 clips of them myself on Tuesday. One, he almost decapitated Joshua Hobbs' head, the quarterback from Minnesota. And then there was another one, just an absolute filthy helmet-to-helmet shot on a Green Bay receiver as well. So that led to him being suspended for 4 games. But anyway, the Bills signed him because the day before that was revealed that, I don't want to say even likely starting free safety at this point, because who the hell knows? But Mike Edwards, who's had a shoulder injury for a lot of offseason activity stuff, goes to training camp relatively healthy, and he hurt his hamstring. On Monday, no update since Monday, but on Monday, Sean McDermott said that was going to be a week-to-week injury. So him going down prompted the Bills to sign Kareem Jackson. And then the other piece of news, sticking with the safety position, and this is not good news, obviously, rookie safety Cole Bishop, who is in very legitimately strong consideration, or at least he certainly was, to actually start the season at free safety, hurt his arm late in practice on Tuesday. No reports. And again, I'm recording this as late as 11:30 p.m. on Tuesday. As I record this, at least anyway, no definitive news, no updates on Cole Bishop, just speculation. We don't know what's wrong. Josh Reed from Channel 4 pointed out that his arm was heavily wrapped. He saw that at the facility after practice on Tuesday. So we don't know, but obviously it is a big blow, especially for a rookie who's vying to be a starter. Last week, as camp started, it was pretty apparent it was going to be Damar Hamlin, Cole Bishop, and Mike Edwards vying for that starting free safety job. It seems like Taylor Rapp's got the strong safety job right now on lock. And within 24 to 36 hours, Mike Edwards goes down, and now Cole Bishop goes down. Obviously, hoping for good news. Best case scenario, maybe it's just something that keeps him out a handful of days, or even if it's a couple weeks, that's all right. Hopefully, it's nothing, crazy and bad, real bad, like say a broken arm or maybe even worse than that. But anyway, as we record this, I don't want to speculate because there's no update. But obviously, that may lead to another move. And I don't even have the names in front of me, but I can tell you this. The Bills on Tuesday evening worked out, at least that was reported from Aaron Wilson, 4 different safeties. None of them names that are going to be familiar with the average Bills fan. I don't even have them in front of me. I do remember seeing the names, and none of them popped off at me whatsoever. So who knows? We'll see. If the Bills on Wednesday, when you see or hear this, the show, hopefully, if the Bills sign another safety, that probably tells you that the Cole Bishop injury is going to be more than just a little day-to-day thing. Now, the Bills do not practice on Wednesday. They are off on Wednesday. So there is at least a chance that we don't get any real update from the Bills on Cole Bishop on Wednesday, and may have to wait before practice until Thursday to hopefully get some more definitive concrete news on Cole Bishop. But that's obviously not good. A couple other nuggets from Bills practice before we dive into this pod bag right here on Tuesday. Alec Anderson, reserve interior lineman, was taken to the hospital for overheating. He overheated during practice. Had to get taken to the hospital. Fortunately, everything that's come back from that is positive, and he's going to be fine. Hopefully, it was just kind of a precautionary thing. And Alec Anderson, who I think, I don't want to say he's a lock to make this team, but I think he's a very, very, very strong candidate to make this football team. Always something to worry about when a player out there is overheating. But obviously, the Bills and their renowned medical staff handle that with care and immediately. In terms of players, by the way, a veteran rest day. So on Monday, there was no Matt Milano, there was no Teron Johnson, and there was no Von Miller. On Tuesday, it was veteran rest days for another pair of Bills defenders. Daquan Jones and linebacker Nick Morrow got veteran rest days. So, by the way, a little bit surprising hearing the name Nick Morrow. I mean, Daquan Jones, veteran rest day, perfect sense. But, like, is Nick Morrow a complete lock to make this football team right now? Deion Jones in the mix. Dorian Williams, obviously, is going to be a backup linebacker. They got a fifth-round rookie from Penn State. Is Nick Morrow that much of a lock that he's getting veteran rest days less than a week into camp? Found that pretty interesting. But anyway, veteran rest days for those guys. By all accounts, now I was not at practice on Tuesday, but I've said this a couple times on the show. I'm part of this text group with a couple content creators, media person, a couple really knowledgeable Bills fans, pretty large text group. Somebody or some combination of people are at every practice. So we're always staying in the loop. And all these people who are updating are people whose opinions and that, that I value and that I trust. But anyway, by literally every account and media reporting as well. The star of Tuesday's practice was Von Miller. Now, the Bills largely were practicing third and long situations. So that's always going to be a good day for the defense as a whole, and usually especially for pass rushers. And Von Miller, by all accounts, certainly took advantage of that. He shined. He had at least one would-be sack on Josh Allen, maybe more. Certainly pressured him into a couple of premature throws. But more than that, it just looks like that speed is coming back. And even more important than the speed, that bend that he has, with using his arms, using his legs and his back, that seems to be back. That is unbelievably fantastic news for the Bills. If this holds up and we're going to get something that's even, let's say, 90% of what Von Miller was in 2022 for the Bills from the start of the regular season right through Thanksgiving in Detroit where he tore his ACL, if the Bills are getting that version of Von Miller along with Greg Rousseau, who we talked about yesterday on the show, has been the MVP of Bills camp and hopefully ready for a breakout season. But those two guys together, that's going to be really, really good news for Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich, and this Buffalo Bills defense. So a great day for Von Miller. Conversely, from what I hear, at least anyway, relatively an up and down day. Let's call it an up and down day. I was going to say a tough day for Kaiir Elam, but it was an up and down day, which seems to be the story of Kaiir Elam's career. I know he had an interception during one part of drills, but he also got called for a couple defensive holding penalties, which, he retweeted this on Tuesday. 3 things in life are certain: death, taxes, and Kaiir Elam's ass is going to get a defensive penalty. And that's what it was. But a good practice from what I hear, too, from Jamarcus Ingram. So I don't know, maybe that Elam versus Ingram for that third corner, maybe that might be a position that heats up. But anyway, that was the gist of things from practice. Matt Collins had a really good practice as well, catching passes. His spot on this team is a gazillion% secure as not just as a top 4 guy. I wouldn't be surprised if week 1 was this coming Sunday. If the Bills are playing the Cardinals this coming Sunday, I would not be surprised if the Bills, when they go to 3 wide receiver sets, at least early in the game, that it would be Curtis Samuel, Kahlil Shakir, and Matt Collins, not Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman is having a really good camp, and he's going to get reps, and he will hopefully produce. Big plans for Keon Coleman, but early on in camp, man, Matt Collins has been rock solid. Would not be surprised. Plus, he's a good blocker, so would not be surprised whatsoever if Matt Collins is seeing a lot of starting first unit snaps going forward in camp into the preseason and maybe even into the regular season. All right, so that's your Bills camp update. Let me get to the first one of a pod bag before we take a break and kind of zip through a lot of these. At Philip Gibson 9091 says, Terry Pegula doesn't owe the media nothing as far as getting in front of them and getting hammered with questions. It's his company. He can do as he sees fit. We are lucky we don't have a Jerry Jones. He meddles so much. He's basically the GM. Josh will get it done. This is switching gears here to Josh Allen. Josh is such a good guy that they got to think of something negative. All right, this take from Philip, and thank you, by the way, for that. Appreciate it. This is mainly in response to Tim Graham's story last week about management presumably wanting Josh Allen to take more of an executive leadership role on the team, be a little more vocal as a leader, maybe a little bit less as a friend. Hopefully, I'm kind of getting the gist of that right. We talked about it on Monday's show when I had Joe from Queens, who had a lot of opinions on that. Go back and listen to that because he had some really good takes on Tim's story and kind of the fallout from the Buffalo Bills, who really pressed the issue with Tim, went on WGR. So a lot of that stuff was denied anyway. It's just, with takes on Pegula, like I said, I've kind of been in the camp of, I don't really care that Terry Pegula doesn't speak. And I know that infuriates a lot of some fans, that quite frankly infuriates a lot of the media, understandably, because they got a job to do and they want to hear from the owner. I feel like this is more on the hockey side, though, than the football side. Really don't think on the football side people really care much to hear from Terry Pegula. I think you're good hearing from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott when it comes to matters of personnel and stuff with the Bills. So I feel like this is more of a Sabres thing about Terry Pegula not talking, but I'm good with it. I'm good with Terry not speaking. So for starters, he's horrible at it. He's a terrible public speaker. Sorry, man, but I'm just saying what it is. Terry Pegula is almost cringy and uncomfortable to watch and to listen to Terry Pegula when he's behind a microphone, getting bombarded with questions, which so long ago, it's hard to remember, to the commenter's point. Secondly, who cares what he says? I don't give a shit. I don't care, man. Actions over words. Actions over words. That's the kind of guy Terry Pegula actually is. And I'll give him that, man. When it comes to people in power, that's what I want. I don't need a Jerry Jones sit down and having to detail everything and what he thinks about everything. I don't give a shit. I don't. I want an owner who's not afraid to make changes. And Terry Pegula's not afraid to make changes. You got to give him that. Maybe almost to a fault. He's not afraid to eat money when doing so. And again, I'm kind of crisscrossing between the Sabres and the Bills here, but we'll go to Bills. Rex Ryan, bad hire, ate some money. Dude had to get fired. He fired him. Ralph Kruger. Don Granato got an extension and got fired before the extension even kicked in. So Terry Pegula is not afraid to take action to make moves. So I'm good with that. I do not need Terry Pegula to speak much, if at all, when it comes to his sports teams. That's what GMs are for. And Brandon Beane is excellent at it. Kevin Adams, not so much, but whatever. Still better than hearing from Terry. Again, kind of almost cringy for me to listen to him in front of him. I guess for Josh, look, I'm not sure it's created some negative. At least I see the point of wanting him to be a little bit, maybe more of a vocal leader. Although, how do you know if he really is? Like, what kind of leader he is? How do we know that? We don't see that shit. You know what we see? We see him get in front of a microphone once a week, usually, because he's usually available for media once a week, answer some questions. We're not privy. And for the most part, even the media who covers the team and has access to the team, they're not really privy of what Josh Allen's like in the locker room with his teammates. We don't know what they're saying. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know how they're communicating, team meetings, and all that shit. So I don't know, man. Josh Allen, I feel, and this was a point that you made, and I don't think you're wrong, by the way. It's almost like you got to create. I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but it's almost like you have to create issues with Josh Allen, because on the field, there's really not a lot that you could dig in on. Somebody like, say, Lamar Jackson, who's been an MVP twice, shit the bed in the playoffs. Josh really hasn't shit the bed much in the playoffs. He's lived up to his hype. If you want to rip on Josh, it could be his penchant, his habit of throwing a really stupid interception every game. I think he went through an interception in 9 straight games last year. That's horrible. That aside, though, man, there's not a lot not a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to getting after Josh Allen. And people who are talking about his leadership, I don't know. We all have our opinions. Mine is, I don't buy that shit at all. All right, quick break. Come back. Going to get to some more of these. We'll fly through, actually, a lot of these right after this break. Man, I got to tell you, I couldn't wait for that break real quick because I wanted a sip of coffee in the worst way imaginable. All right, let's continue here. At Bob Cross 6114. Want to make sure I have this right. The biggest difference I see with everybody eats, and that's the mantra that we've been hearing about with the Bills receiving room, is longer drives, which expose more chances to turn the ball over and injury. But yes, I'm excited. Good show. I'm on board. Thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you like, listen, and enjoy talking Buffalo. I don't agree with you, though. First of all, everyone eats means there's no number one wide receiver on this team, if that wasn't clear. It could be anyone on any given Sunday that's going to carry the load for the Buffalo Bills offense. I'm not sure really how that mantra leads to longer drives, though I'm sure Joe Brady and especially Sean McDermott would love to see plenty of long Buffalo Bills drives. Sean McDermott wants to control that clock and win time of possession each and every single week. You say expose more chances, though, for turnover or injury. I kind of see it different, man. I see it as longer drives for your offense is going to wear the hell out of a defense, and I think that's very, very advantageous to James Cook, maybe some to Ray Davis, and certainly to Josh Allen. So long drives, more chances for turnover or injury, sure, but for me, that's more about wearing down the defense. And if the Bills are having multiple drives, 10-plus play drives, chances are they're going to be successful during that game. At Joe Goho says, if Tyrell Shavers becomes wide receiver 5, then the stories about the Bills' depth at wide receiver are greatly overrated, and Dawson Knox may have already have a nagging knee injury. Anybody counting on him for meaningful contribution with his injury history is looking at fool's gold. Thanks for that, Joe. Look, is he? If Dawson Knox is banged up and slowed down with a bad knee or anything else, that's news to me. If I'm being honest with you. I saw him on Monday, and he looked pretty damn good to me on Monday. I mean, and stand out as anything special, but he didn't look like he was slowed down or had any injury effect or anything like that. I haven't heard or seen personally any reports of him hobbling. And even if so, or if he's healthy, I don't think Dawson Knox is going to be like that every week guy. He's not Greg Olsen. You know what I mean? He's not going to be somebody who's eating in that offense that everyone eats. Well, everyone eats, but maybe Dawson's not always eating. He's not going to be that every week guy, but he's going to have some big moments. He's going to have some games where he makes a pretty big impact. I think it's reasonable to at least count on him for that. He has scored touchdowns in playoff games. He's made big plays. I think that's what you could expect for Dawson Knox. Are you going to get 50 catches from him for 600 yards? Nah, probably not. 35 to 40 catches, though. A couple games where he has, 4 catches for 68 yards and a big touchdown. He'll have that a couple times a season. And so he'll still be, look, the contract is the contract. He's not going anywhere this year. He's not going anywhere next year. So, he's their number 2 tight end. But I still think he could be incredibly useful. As for Shavers, I don't think people around the league, and not even in Buffalo, for being honest, are really praising the Bills' depth at wide receiver. So I'm not really sure I'm feeling that take right there. There's not a lot of people around the league. Every, grouping that I see are receivers when it comes to the Bills. They're in the bottom third of the league. Joe from Queens and I did a show literally taking the top 4, I think it was 4 receivers from every team and ranking all 32 of them, the Bills were like 25th or some shit like that. And I've seen other tiers in charts where the Bills are very low. I think the bottom of the Bills depth chart battles, though, not in terms of like talent, it's like, wow, but in terms of like positional battles, who's going to make this football team right now, kind of feel like that's fascinating. Will the Bills keep 5 receivers? That's what they kept last year. Will they keep 6? It's interesting, man. Last year was only 5. Feel like it could be 6 this year. And you got your top 4 set it. I said it yesterday. George Foreman said it and forget it. You got your top 4. After that, though, MVS had a pretty quiet training camp so far, at least anyway. And Joe Brady kind of spoke to that a little bit on Tuesday, getting a little more acclimated to the offense. Wasn't here for all the offensive offseason activities, stuff like that. Hopefully he'll start to get ramped up. But anyway, he hasn't. MVS, Justin Shorter, Chase Claypool, KJ Hamler, and now Tyrell Shavers has played his way into the conversation. 1 spot among those guys, possibly 2. So it's pretty intense. I feel like, by the way, for what it's worth, Andy Isabella got it fallen off. But aside from that, every day for those receivers that I mentioned, MVS, Shorter, Claypool, Hamler, Shavers, 5 guys, 1 spot for sure, maybe 2. Every practice, every training camp practice, every preseason snap is going to be huge for these guys. Here comes another one, sticking with the wide receivers. Edash81 says, the kid, referring to Kahlil Shakir in this case, is about to pop. He was one of my favorite mid-round prospects and was so pumped we traded up for him. He reminds me of Steve Smith in the way tacklers bounce off him, though not saying he's a Steve Smith. Thank you very much for that comment, Edash. And that's not the worst comparison. I get what you're saying, too. You're not saying the guy's the next Steve Smith, but you see some Steve Smithisms in Kahlil Shakir. I'm good with that. I think you're preaching to the choir, by the way, with the Kahlil Shakir love. I love Kahlil Shakir. I got sold on him for sure on the back end of last year, and I don't think it was an anomaly what he was doing at the end of the season. I think he's primed to take on a much bigger role. I kind of feel like he's a more explosive Cole Beasley. Like, at least the ceiling for Kahlil Shakir could be an explosive type of Cole Beasley player on this team. He's going to move the chains like Beasley, reliable hands like Beasley, could get open quickly like Cole Beasley, which, by the way, Cole Beasley, when healthy, before the end of his Bills career anyway, was really good at them. And he was so good at separation, getting open and catching the football. I feel like Kahlil Shakir is like that as well, but the difference with Shakir and Beasley is that I feel like Shakir is that next gear. Kahlil Shakir has that ability to pop for a huge play. He could take a hook pass 8 yards, to your point, have somebody bounce off him, make someone miss, and bam, now it's a 30, 40-yard gain. Hell, even take it to the house. I could easily see Kahlil Shakir leading the Buffalo Bills this season in catches and yards. It would not shock me in the very least. All right, a real quick break here to let you know, hey, golf fans, and I know there's plenty of you out there watching and listening right now, want to let you know that whether you're a beginner that's brand new to the sport, trying to truly learn the game, or even if you're a regular fixture on the course, looking to get your game up to that next level by getting lessons, I'm here to tell you right now that the teaching pro you need in your life is definitely Jeff Metis, an award-winning PGA professional. Jeff has been helping golfers of all skill levels get the very most of their ability for nearly 3 decades. Jeff is also a well-known voice of golf off the course as well, as co-host of the Tee to Green Show on WGR 550 alongside Brian Cozio. Lessons with Jeff Metis will drastically change your game for the better. Trust me, I am seeing it right now firsthand. Visit www.mygolfdojo.com to book your lessons with Jeff Metis today. Continuing with at AFC East Mafia, and I like this one. This is fun. You want to talk about a little projection, a little bold predicting here. He says Josh will still be the Super Bowl MVP, But Damar Hamlin getting a Dak pick 6 will seal the victory for Buffalo, getting their revenge on the Cowboys. First of all, Dallas is going to win. You got the Dallas Cowboys winning a football game in the playoffs? Really? You got Dak Prescott winning playoff football, getting the Super Bowl? Oof, that might be more outlandish than Damar Hamlin getting an interception to seal a victory against anybody for the Bills in a Super Bowl win. They're going with the Dallas Cowboys. I love the thought. It's fun. Talked about Damar Hamlin plenty on yesterday's show. He is firmly, and I mean firmly, in the mix to start. And I don't want to discredit him and say it's only because of injuries. Let's not forget, day one of training camp, first team, 11 on 11. It was Damar Hamlin, not Mike Edwards, and not Cole Bishop out there with the starters. They had a rotation. Day one, Damar. Day two, Edwards. Day three, Cole Bishop. And Edwards got hurt. It was Bishop, hurt. Now it's going to be Damar. Assuming Edwards is not back in time and Sean feels good about Damar Hamlin, I kind of feel like I would give Damar Hamlin a slight edge over Cole Bishop, even if, God willing, Cole Bishop's injury turns out to be minor. Even if Cole Bishop just misses a couple days and doesn't get himself hurt out of a starting competition, I kind of feel like Damar Hamlin might have the edge anyway because of his experience. And by the way, your boy is hungry as shit. Has said so publicly in comments. In fact, I think he said something. I don't even think I'm paraphrasing here when he said, I'm starving. He's starving to be great. I think Sean McDermott would prefer to not start a rookie alongside Taylor Rapp. And we'll see how it plays out. Look, I get it too with Damar Hamlin. And this is the thing that I love and that I hate. Because when he does something great, it's too much of the praise or criticism is going to be political. It's going to be motivated by politics and social beliefs and stupid everything. I've heard everything from vaccinations shit somehow gets into Damar Hamlin conversation. Freaking hate that. Let's just let things be, man. Damar Hamlin, don't undersell it. Damar Hamlin being alive is a great human story. Damar Hamlin coming back to the Buffalo Bills last year and playing in the NFL is a great human story and a great football story. I didn't do much of anything on the field last year. Some special team stuff wasn't even active that much. Of course, the pinnacle moment for Damar Hamlin was a botched fake punt attempt against the Chiefs in the second half of their divisional round loss. Can't really put that on Damar, though, when literally 5 guys missed a block and he never had a chance for it to be successful anyway. But my point was him just being alive and then playing last year, great stories. But if Damar Hamlin could come back and really kickstart the football side of things again, be a starter. He was a starter in 2022 with the Hyde and the Poyer injuries. And I thought Damar Hamlin was pretty damn good in 2022 until later in the season. I kind of felt like he was hitting a wall. And this was before the tragedy in Cincinnati. I felt like at that point he was kind of starting to hit a wall a couple weeks before that. But I liked what I saw from him for a lot of that season. Smart player. He's got him bigger. And man, oh man, for him to come back and be the starting safety in week 1 for the Buffalo Bills, especially if he's earned it. And I don't think he's going to get the job if he hasn't earned it. Sean ain't handing him shit. So if he's that starting safety in week 1, that means he earns it. It could be Damar Hamlin season here in Buffalo without question, especially with the injuries, man, especially with the injuries to Mike Edwards and quite possibly Cole Bishop as well. At Matt Moore 38. Honestly, if Bishop is even somewhat ready to start, which might not be the case, and I am putting him in there, would rather Bishop get experience, even if he makes some mistakes, rather than having anyone else in there short of signing Justin Simmons. All right, thanks for that, Matt. And I got to point this out, too. This comment was submitted to me before practice on Tuesday where Cole Bishop got hurt. But again, for the sake of discussion, let's assume that Cole Bishop's injury ends up being minor, okay? They signed Kareem Jackson, so It surely doesn't look like the Bills have interest in adding Simmons. Probably because of the contract. And who knows? Maybe for whatever reason, I wouldn't understand why, but for whatever reason, Justin Simmons don't want to come to Buffalo either. Who the hell knows? My guess is that he's looking for X amount of dollars and Brandon Beane's not going to give it to him. At least he isn't as of now anyway. I'd like to see Cole Bishop in there too, but I'm not willing to put a guy out there who's to your point, Matt, it's okay. If he makes mistakes, you'd rather have him get experience, even if he makes mistakes. Because if he makes mistakes, it's going to come at the expense of the defense and ultimately the Buffalo Bills team. He might make a mistake that's going to cost him a critical game. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it could happen. And you're saying you'd be good even if he's going to go out there and make mistakes. I'm not good putting a guy out there if he's going to make mistakes and won't give his team the better chance to win that football game on Sunday than Damar Hamlin or Mike Edwards or Kareem Jackson or Simmons or Micah Hyde, whoever the hell it may be. Letting them be out there and making mistakes, that's the kind of mantra that you have when you're rebuilding. It's not the kind of mindset that you have, and I'm pretty sure it's not the mindset that Sean McDermott has when he's trying to win a Super Bowl. So just like I said, if Damar Hamlin's the starter, it's because he earned it. If Cole Bishop ends up the starter in week 1, it's going to be because he earned it, and it's going to be because Sean McDermott is going to be confident that he's not going to go out there and make mistakes that might hurt his football team in the early going of his career during that process. At Brian Freeman, too. Totally against Micah's return to football, not to mention he wasn't the same level of physically post-neck fusion. No thanks. They wouldn't be that desperate with Simmons on board. All right. Another comment about Simmons here. Thank you, Brian, for that. In terms of Micah Hyde returning, you're totally against it. I still wouldn't rule out, but to me, the fact that they signed Kareem Jackson after Edwards hurt his hamstring and not Micah, and with Cole Bishop potentially having a pretty significant injury and them working out for, I don't want to say no name of 4 players that aren't going to be that familiar to fans, kind of feels pretty telling to me, although you can make a case that if Micah Hyde was going to return, he doesn't want to be at camp and he wants it to be later, like maybe even into the preseason. Something happening to Edwards kind of felt like that was the only reason why Micah Hyde would be back to begin with. And something did happen to Edwards and he's not back. So who knows? Maybe they're saying all the right things publicly because they just have such a great amount of admiration and respect for each other. But it's at least possible that when it comes to the football side only of things, maybe the Bills don't have interest in adding Micah Hyde. Maybe they think from a football standpoint, he's washed, that his career's over. Or, Micah might be saying the right things. And maybe Brandon Beane did have an interest in bringing Micah back. And maybe it was Micah Hyde who just doesn't have that interest in coming back, at least not right now anyway. Either way, it doesn't bode well for Micah Hyde playing for this team again, that they're suffering through injuries at safety and he's still not here. At Jason Wolf 2306, don't let Joe from Queens back on during training camp. He's a wet blanket on the subject. Joe's hatred for nearly all training camp content to me makes things fun. How many variations of the same training camp bullet points, talking points do you want to have on Buffalo Bills podcast? That's no disrespect to any of them. But you say you got your favorite, you listen 8 to 10 podcasts, they're all going to talk about Von Miller having a big day. They're all going to talk about a catch that Keon Coleman made. They're all going to talk about Kyrie Elam struggling. They're all going to talk about Josh Allen slinging the ball around. Kind of get a little bit repetitive. So let me get somebody on the show, at least once a week anyway. At least once a week. Not more than that, but once a week. Let me get somebody on who's going to shit on camp. Let me get someone on there who's going to be critical, that training camp for the most part don't end up meaning shit, which sometimes is not inaccurate. Training camp didn't mean shit for Terrell Bernard last year because I didn't see him doing anything. And look what he ended up starting. Look what he became. A lot of guys are training camp darlings. They don't amount to shit afterwards. It's true. That's what it is. So I kind of think Joe's hatred actually for camp to me is kind of funny. I love the hate that Joe from Queens gets on our YouTube page. To be fair, too, a lot of it's warranted, man. He's a curmudgeon. There's no question about it. But I think for the most part, he mostly owns that. And it makes for a lot of fun conversations. Sometimes they're conversations. Sometimes they turn into bicker fest with him and I, but he ain't going nowhere. At least not ultimately until I get pissed off at him someday over something. I'll stop having him on the show. But yeah, man, Joe from Queens is not a fan of training camp, and Joe from Queens is not a fan of training camp content, and Joe from Queens is not a fan of golf talk. Sorry, golf fans. And Joe from Queens, probably not really much of a fan of the media. So whatever. It's different. It's his opinions, not mine, but I kind of like having different flavors on this show. Mr. Ghostface 85. Joe Burrow is overrated. Oof. Yes, I said it. He was carried to the Super Bowl during that run by his defense. I believe he only had 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions during that run. Burrow has 9 touchdowns and 4 picks in the playoffs. And even in the in the Chiefs 27-24 win, he only had 250 yards on 38 pass attempts. If Allen had those stats against the Chiefs, we would have probably gotten blown out of the building. Burrow has had a ton of new players in his O-line each year and gets sacked numerous times. I'm not going to say he's playing with Pro Bowlers, but his lines appear to look worse than what they really are because he can't detect pressure. He's a top 5 QB, but he's had 2 number 1 receivers, a good slot receiver, and Boyd, in my opinion, the most overrated quarterback in the league. Well, that's interesting. I don't know, man. 4 years in this league. 2 of those 4, he's been healthy for the full season. One of those 2 years, he led the Bengals to a Super Bowl. The other one, he led them to an AFC title game. He's been pretty much flawless the 2.5 times he's played against the Buffalo Bills. Man, I can't call him overrated. I just can't do it. I would say I'm going to be critical of him. I have concerns about him being able to stay healthy. Is he going to be a quarterback that spends half of his career hurt? Is he going to be the Ken Griffey Jr. of the NFL? That's a legitimate potential criticism. Call him overrated, though. I just, no. He's not, all right? It's Joe Burrow. And by the way, you even admit he's a top 5 quarterback. So I'm really not sure how you can call someone overrated, but still say he's a top 5 quarterback. Appreciate you, bro. I like the comment. I really do. But to me, it's Joe Burrow or it's Josh Allen for QB2 right now in this league. Couple Saber things real quick here. The Ray You Joe. I like that. It's honestly perfect. He's talking about the UPL contract here, the 5-year extension that the Bills and him agreed to, or the Sabres and him agreed to. It's honestly perfect. Keeps UPL happy. Solidifies the net, even if Levi doesn't work out. If Levi does work, this cap hit isn't necessarily handcuffing you from keeping both players with the rising cap. If Levi takes over and you need cap space, it's a very movable contract. That is an excellent take, man. The Ray You Joe. Love that screen name, too. Good take, man. I appreciate that. Yo, look, I agree fully with you, dude. I actually like this contract a lot, and I'm pretty critical of the Sabres. You know, if UPL's great, you got yourself a bargain. I think he's only the 21st highest paid goalie right now. And that's going to drop as more goalies get paid over the next, say, year or so. So that's even going to drop more. Not a contract killer by any means. If Devin Levi does emerge, you got a number 2 at a fairly reasonable contract. And his contract is tradable, to your point, at some point. If you want to go that route, if Levi's going to be in the net 60, 65 games, and you're like, really, we can get some value for UPL. Don't want to keep a contract that much for a guy who's only going to play 20 to 25 games. You want to trade him, it's a very tradable contract. I like everything about it. Short of him just becoming like a shit goalie, or short of someone who's always getting hurt, which is possible with him, man. I got no problem with this deal as well. Love that point, man. I really do. And I really do like that name too. The Ray You Joe. Really, really cool. At free to be 56. It's going to be hard for me to personally get past how the Sabres just treated Skinner. Adams has 0 class, 0 skill, 0 knowledge of how to win. He's simply the worst hockey general manager on the planet. That is a strong take. Is this a Jeff Skinner burner account? I really don't agree with that at all. I mean, he paid very well. He scored a lot of goals, but I still feel like it was time to move on from him. If he wasn't going to be a top 6 forward, which it certainly didn't seem like he was anymore with the Sabres, He belonged on his team. He's not going to play defense. I'm not sure he and Lindy Ruff would have meshed well together whatsoever. And by a lot of accounts from hockey people who are a million times smarter than I am, his skill, his speed were starting to decline a little bit, if not start to erode. So I ain't with you on that, man. I'm not. Now, that said, Jeff Skinner went to Edmonton. He's probably going to score 35 goals. He's going to play with Connor McDavid. He's going to score 35 to 40 goals, and he's going to play for a Stanley Cup. Him or Casey Middlestat with Colorado, one of them two. That's how it works with ex-Buffalo Sabres. As for Kevin Adams, that might have been just a little bit rough, man. Wouldn't say zero skills or knowledge how to win. But I'll tell you this, your boy's GMing for his job this year, because if the Sabres don't make the playoffs, Kevin Adams is going to be the next one on a very long series of Sabres personnel chopping block victims. Get out of here with a couple more. At Sammy G, WWW. What kind of, why add that long screen name? Which I feel like it's appropriate for what he says here. Man, I wish you didn't bend over for these hack Buffalo reporters. So cringy. Dude, that feels a little bit unnecessary, man. Come on, that's a little bit over the top. Bending over for these hack Buffalo reporters. How dare you call them hack Buffalo reporters? They are excellent Buffalo sports reporters, man. I really don't have anywhere to go. I think we should kind of just end that. I was looking for it ready. Here it is. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'm going to read it for you. Since somebody, the Sammy G character, and to take a shot at me, I'm going to let someone else have at me too. So on Apple, you can leave ratings and reviews. And for the most part, the ratings and reviews for Talking Buffalo, pretty positive, man. I truly appreciate everybody who takes time to rate and review this show. I got to put up this one, and I got to read it because this is funny. The title says, and by the way, it's Joe Charvante Biscaglia. I don't know if this might be Joe from Queens Incognito or something, but the title says Grow Up. And the review reads, lose the hat, act your age, stop rating dumb has been, gone things like Jodeci and Donny Hathaway songs. What the fuck, dude? Donny Hathaway is a legend. And I've seen Jodeci live. No one cares. And what does this have to do with Buffalo anyway? It's really a lack of God in your life. You took so long, lost things of yesterday to rate a top 5 over, but they are meaningless. I don't know what he's talking about there. The Bills are here and real, but still not as important as God. Wake up, bro. Do Bills, do Sabres, spelled Sabres wrong, by the way. Do Wings. All right, so I can't talk about Jodeci and Donny Hathaway, but you want to hear me talk about Wings? Really? Anyway, but the next time you take up a half show blowing the guest because he is a black or female reporter, oh my Lord, that's it. I don't want to hear their crappy story. I don't care where they're from or how they made it. There's an old adage in journalism. When the media makes a story about the media, they have no story. Grow up, find God, lose weight, and fix the pod. Other than that, love the show. Ha ha. Joe from Queen rules. I'm speechless, man. That is the perfect way to get out of this week's edition of the Podbag. And that's going to do it for this show. Again, one more time, if you happen to be in the Lackawanna OP area, stop up. Sunny Reds, live show, 8 o'clock. I'll be there for a good hour and a half before that with my man Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. It's going to be a great time. And if you can't make it, make sure you listen live on YouTube or Twitter at 8 p.m. It's going to do it for today. Thank you again one more time. Be back. Brand new show. Joe Marino with me tomorrow.